Over the years, Disney has had some crazy park ideas. Back in the 1990s, when Michael Eisner was CEO of the company, Disney had many crazy, but amazing park ideas. There was Disney Quest, which was planned to be a chain of a lot of small indoor theme parks across North America. There was even a West Coast version of Epcot called Westcott. Both very good topics for another time. But none of these ideas were quite like Michael Eisner's plan to build an American history theme park in my home state of Virginia. So today, let's take a look at Disney's America, what it was going to look like, and more importantly, what the heck happened to it. In late 1993, Disney announced Disney's America, the American-themed theme park and the third theme park destination by Disney in the contiguous United States. This park was vastly different from all the previous parks that Disney has built. They bought 3,000 acres of land from Exxon in Haymarket, Virginia, and planned for one theme park, one hotel similar to the Hotel Wilderness Lodge at Walt Disney World, and a 27-hole golf course. Unlike all the other theme parks they had built in the past, this was supposed to be their first true regional park. The maximum capacity of Disney's America was said to have been around 30,000 guests per day, which is only roughly 30% of the capacity that the Magic Kingdom can hold in Walt Disney World. When the park was announced, they released pamphlets with a concept rendering of the park and plans for the 9 themed lands within. Once you entered the park, you would be greeted with Crossroads USA, a pre-Civil War era village dating back from the 1800s to the 1850s. To the left of Crossroads USA, there were 2 lands, President's Square and Native America. President's Square was a celebration of democracy and would include a Hall of Presidents attraction similar to the one in Walt Disney World. Native America was a recreation of a 1600s Native American village and would include a raft ride called the Lewis and Clark Expedition. Going back to Crossroads USA and moving across to the other side of the park, there were another 6 lands: Enterprise, We the People, Victory Field, State Fair, Family Farm, and Civil War Fort. Enterprise was to include a fast-paced roller coaster called Industrial Revolution and would be themed to an industrial town. We the People was a recreation of Ellis Island in New York and showed what it was like immigrating to the United States. Victory Field was a recreation of an airfield from one of the World Wars, and State Fair was a recreation of a state fair and had a wooden roller coaster ride. Family Farm was a recreation of, you guessed it, a family farm, and would have food and entertainment to surround the theme. And finally, Civil War Fort would include a 360 circle vision show and a battle reenactment where parkgoers could watch a Civil War battle take place. Many people loved the idea of this theme park in Northern Virginia. After it was announced, the Republican governor at the time, George Allen, obviously jumped in support of the project as it was planned to create 16,000 jobs for the area. The project was going to act as a tourist hub. People could spend a few days at the resort while vacationing in Washington, D.C., and then they could go visit the real attractions in D.C. proper in Disney buses and transportation. It was a very interesting idea for sure, but it didn't come without its drawbacks and issues that led it to exactly where it is today. When the park was announced, even though it got a lot of support, it started to attract a lot of opposition. To begin with, historians didn't think Disney would be able to properly portray the history of America without missing key elements of the stories that they told. They thought that the project's ideas would deviate from the truthful history of America that we learned in school, and I honestly can't blame them for that, and I almost agree with them. More on that later. Another issue was the park's location. It was located 30 miles out of Washington, D.C., and just happened to be very close to Manassas Battlefield, which, for people who don't know, it's one of the many battlefields from the Civil War. Many people at the time really thought nothing had any good reason to be put there, and thought the land was really sacred due to all the lives that had been lost, not only in that battle, but in other locations near Manassas as well. So far, we've talked about location and the park theme as a whole. Now let's talk about the opposition to the name of the park itself. People really thought the park was an attempt to corporatize America. The name was a problem. Disney's America. It sounds like Disney owns America, which isn't a great look. Opposition to the name, to the theme, to the location. Anything else? There were environmental concerns as well. When the park was announced, Virginia volunteered over $100 million in support to build up infrastructure and roads around the park. People thought these upgrades, and most importantly the park, would cause massive traffic issues in the area, already busy at the time, and also have cause for concern due to rising emissions in the area from the extra vehicles from the projected 11 million visitors headed to Disney's America every year. Not only would the traffic be increased, but the surrounding area would have expanded a lot as well. An interviewee, Bob Luthi, talking to the Earth Island Journal in 1994, said, "Quality of life is an environmental issue. If Disney's America is built, bungee jumping, go-karts, shopping malls, and every conceivable variety of commercial garbage will be clamoring to get in." It's a good point. Both projects in North America, Disneyland and Disney World after they were built, created a huge demand for pop-up tourist attractions and shopping centers around their resorts. But if all of the problems couldn't have been enough, the project couldn't have come at a worse time. Tragedy struck the Walt Disney Company when the COO and president of the company, Frank Wells, died in a helicopter crash in April of 1994, just a few months after the park was announced. Him and Michael went way back, and it was devastating on many projects of the time. Following this tragedy, Michael came down with heart problems, and just a few months later, in July of 1994, he underwent quadruple heart bypass surgery. Because of Michael's condition, it made it extraordinarily difficult to push through all of the problems that were prevalent, especially after the death of Frank Wells. In the end, it was this that Disney credits led to the demise of Disney's America. Near the end of the project, Disney actually made new concept internally as a sort of last-ditch effort. They planned to change the name to Disney's American Celebration, and much of the themed areas with this new concept changed as well. There would be a land pavilion like the one in Epcot today. They were going to make the state fair, but instead it was going to be called Creativity and Fun. There was going to be a part of the park called Streets of America, resembling the Streets of America that was in Disney's Hollywood Studios or MGM Studios at the time, and it would have food from each of the cities represented. Those were just some of the parts of the new concepts, but honestly this version, at least to me, even though I love some of those lands in other parks, it just seems a lot more boring and unoriginal compared to the original Disney's America plan. Executives in the company said that they planned to still build the project somewhere in the surrounding states or somewhere else in Virginia, but I think you can probably see, at almost 20 years later now, the project has been shelved indefinitely. As interesting as the story went, I personally wonder what would have happened to this park if it had been built. Would the park have caused an environmental crisis? Would it have been done well, or would it have been exactly as historians thought? I put a little thought into it from factors that we know now, and as the majority of things go in this world, I think the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. I at least believe the history of the park would have been portrayed properly, but I tend to think that this park would have taken a sharp turn from its original intentions now. The 1990s was a very different time, and the company was very different from what it is today. If you were to look back on the history of the Walt Disney Company's parks division over the past 20 years, you would see a trend of replacing old rides that had cool themes and original ideas with their intellectual properties or IP from past movies and shows. While in some places this isn't a bad thing, and actually it's doing pretty well for them right now, When IP gets dragged into some place where it shouldn't be, it doesn't feel as authentic. A park I think that probably would have become a snapshot of what Disney's America would be now is Epcot, one of the 4 theme parks at Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. Originally, the park was pretty much built as a World's Fair, a compromise of the futuristic city Walt, the founder of the Walt Disney Company, wanted. Nowadays, though, it looks and feels anything but that. Over the past 5 to 10 years specifically, the company has been running the campaign of making the park more Disney, in which they mean adding rides that are more cardboard cutouts of the movies they've made and removing any originality the park once had. In the past 10 years, Frozen Ever After opened in Epcot in the Norway Pavilion, based off Frozen obviously. Disney is also working on more attractions in the park, removing the Energy Pavilion in Future World and replacing it with a Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster called Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Just like Disney's America, Epcot was supposed to be built off of edutainment, but over the past few years, it has turned into another entertainment theme park location. If Disney had opened Disney's America in 1998, like they should have, I would not have been surprised if 10 years later the park started to get new lands and attractions not based on America. Their track record in this case shows that. As much as I would have liked to have seen this attraction built, I'm actually pretty glad they didn't build it, just because I know unfortunately for those who like the original idea of this park, it wouldn't have probably stayed for long. In the future, this replacing the old with intellectual properties, I personally believe will come back to bite the company in the butt, but for the foreseeable future, that's probably all we're going to get, unless someone steps in to change that. And that's all we got for today's video. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, let me know what you think about this park down below, and that's it. Have a great day, everyone.